That's an awesome responsibility.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I think it comes down to unity. I think that obviously in our family and in our tradition, work is a major piece of the pie chart, but family
is everything. Welcome to the Set Apart Podcast, and today is an incredible episode because we have two people that are leading the charge in this industry of concrete, but I think it's like come to a point where it's like almost bigger than concrete. They are the fourth generation owners of a business called Supermix here in Miami and also in Brazil, and not even Miami. I think it's just South Florida in general. And they're somebody that we buy all of our materials from, and we're super happy to have them on the podcast because your story is like, it's not as straightforward as I thought it was. And the more I kind of peeled the onion with you guys throughout the years, I realized that you guys have an incredible story that I think is worth documenting. So welcome to the pod.
Well, thank you for having us. We're blessed to count you guys not just as clients, but as good friends as well. So thank you for inviting us to be part of this today.
Absolutely. We have Felipe Dias and Dan Dias here on the pod. So you guys are like the same but completely different.
Well, some people tell us that we look like twins, and other people tell us that we look nothing alike.
I don't think you guys
so
look anything
alike. We don't get anything in the middle. It's one or the other.
But you know what's crazy is that I think you guys are completely different people, but the goal
we
is
have
kind of
similar values and traditions and stuff for sure.
Yeah, and when I talk to you guys, like the conversations are, it's like when people talk to me in FOS, you know, like completely different people, but the goal is always the same. So it's cool.
Opposites attract, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of like the theme of this podcast. Me and my wife are complete opposites. Me and Jazz are complete opposites. Me and FOS are complete opposites. So I think that the similarities on this podcast are very few.
Yeah.
The only thing I think everybody shows in common is that we like to drink wine. So
I think that's more a strategic tactic on your part.
Yeah, maybe. I think that people come into this environment a little stressed out. It's a long day. You know, Miami is like we don't stop. Yeah. So I feel that, you know, we shoot at night. So I think like just a glass of wine, sometimes a bottle, and we're just here to have a good time and talk and for people to get to know more about you, because I think your story is, I think it's crazy, and I think it's a little bit undervalued. So I kind of want to know, you know, where did you guys kind of grow up? Are you guys from Miami? Because I know you guys are, I think also from Brazil. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
We were born in Brazil originally.
Both of you?
Both of us.
Oh, wow.
In Belo Horizonte, which is like a mountain town. People usually know Rio or São Paulo, you know. And then we moved here when I was 4 and Phil was 6.
Was that like the campo? Is the kind of like out there in the middle of nowhere, or that's kind of
it's very industrial.
Really?
Yeah, and it's big. It's like the third biggest
probably
city.
Third or fourth biggest city in Brazil.
But if you're not there working or whatever, there's no water. It's mountains, and it's.
Is there any concrete plants in that area?
There's a lot of concrete.
Yeah. It's not a touristy place, but there's great food culture. They call it the bar capital of Brazil. So every corner
makes sense.
There's like a bar or like a restaurant.
Would you recommend it for somebody to go and visit?
Yeah, I think I would. There's like some art culture that's popping up too now. And like I said, the food culture is really unique. But it's not touristy, you know, like Dan said, there's no beach. Brazil is often known for the beaches and whatnot.
And the people.
Uh-huh. And it is like an industrial town.
So have you gone to Brazil maybe once or twice? It'd be worth like, hey, I want to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to get a little, get a better perspective.
It's the kind of place where if you go there with somebody who's a local, you're gonna have a much better time.
I can't wait for us to go then.
Yeah. If you come with us, we'd have a great time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So you move here when you're 4 and you're 6, and how was like that transition? Did you guys speak English when you came to this?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
No.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't speak any English. I remember, one of my early memories in Miami. We got enrolled in a school in Key Biscayne. and my mom would give me like note cards. And so like if I had to use the restroom, I would just give the teacher that note card.
It's crazy.
And in the beginning, it was like, everything was new, didn't speak the language, didn't know anybody. And my mom would actually stay outside in the parking lot where I could like go to the window and see her in the parking lot there. And then, that's the only way I would stay in the beginning.
That's crazy.
And we were at least buffered by youth in a way, but like imagine for my dad and even my mom, like my dad would come over here. We had already bought the business here, like in 89 or 88 or something, and it was
89.
We didn't move here till 95, 94. And so he came here young, 2 kids, work all day, try to figure out not only English but Spanish.
And at the same time, learning a city and an industry.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Because
like a different market.
Yeah, the market's very different.
And then finish work, go to UM, do night class to learn English, go home, get home, wake up, do it again every day. Total grind.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you like? I know you're saying that as if you remember, but
Because I was 4,
Do you remember like that grind that he was in, or it's kind of like?
No, you hear stories now. When you're 4 and you're 6, I don't think you pick up on that. But when
he lets us know that we have it easier. Nice.
When my dad approached our grandfather and said that he'd like an opportunity in Miami, my grandfather warned him. He said, "Look, you're going to go to a different country, different language. Your wife is going to be away from her family, and it's going to be very, very difficult in the beginning.
Yeah.
But if you want this opportunity, I need a 5-year commitment.
Wow.
So if you go to Miami and you stick it out for 5 years,
It's your grandfather.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna talk about that later, but yeah, so your grandfather call.
And if you stick it out for 5 years and you don't like it, I will have considered that you had an experience that we could really benefit from here in Brazil, and I will give you an opportunity in the business in Brazil.
Wow.
But if you come before the 5 years, you're on your own.
All deals are off.
So in a way, it was a big leap of faith for him.
That's crazy. So I don't know if I introduced you guys, but these are the owners of Supermix. Supermix has a concrete division and also a masonry division. They also sell raw materials that make the actual concrete. And Supermix is a major player in the South Florida market, but they also have a major player in Brazil. But I just wanted you guys to understand, because I didn't do a good job of introducing them at the beginning. I think that it's crazy because, my story is that there's a 15-year-old kid that asked for a car, got a pressure cleaner, and said, "Hey, I'm not going to give you anything except a pressure cleaner." And my story and like the things that I preach is like, it's tough to, I grew up from nothing. They didn't give me anything, and I kind of worked my way up through high school and college and to where we are now. And then I see a story like your guys that it's, you're 4 generations in, but I see you guys work just as hard, if not in some instances even harder than me. And it does, just because somebody else started the company doesn't mean anything. And I think a lot of people kind of have that, misconception of it. Like, Do you guys relate to that? Do you guys ever feel like, man, these people think that like, this is something I was given? Like,
I think it's like,
because I would have a massive problem. Like, I have a massive chip on my shoulder, knowing that like all of this is the hard labor of me, my wife, our first employee, Foz, and like the pillars. But
Well, you can't buy respect, right? You have to earn it. And I think that's something you learn as a kid, and that's something that was ingrained in us from the beginning. When I was a kid, I used to go to the office with my dad. In high school and college, we had a loader operator who sadly passed away named Mario. On Saturdays, he would teach me how to run the loader and fill the plant. My dad from a young age, he always told us that, if you want to come work for the business, you have to earn it. Respect is not given, it's earned. And when I finished college, that I came back to Miami, and my dad kind of called me in and said, "Okay, what now? What do you want?" And I said, "I'd like a job." He said, it was very clear, and it came from him and ultimately from my grandpa, and it was the same message to him. It's, you're my son from the gate out. From the gate in, you're an employee here like anybody else.
Oh.
So it's.
Do you feel the same way? Like, is that something?
Yeah,
that,
I mean, it was in the beginning. I mean, now we're what 11, 12. Me 11, I think. Phil 13 years in, but I mean, in the beginning, it was.
So you guys, hold on. You guys have only worked for Supermix?
Yeah.
You've never had a.
I did 1 month working for our CPA.
Yeah, 1 month along.
I had an internship after college, but we always kind of had an idea. We always grew up in the business. We always grew up going to these things. We were running around with my dad, my grandpa, my uncle, whatever. And when we started, it was grinding a lot. Like the map wars, 30 hours straight, boots, everything. Like no task, even to this day, is beneath us in any way. You know what I mean? Like we're happy to grind. We're happy to work with everybody else. We hope it motivates them. They motivate us. And you guys are the same way. You guys are out there.
Yeah, boots on the ground. Because I see that, that, and honestly, I know it sounds kind of like cliche. If I didn't feel that from you guys wouldn't be on this podcast.
Yeah.
I think that where I realized it was recently when like we were in a meeting a couple of days ago and I realized like their dad's not here. Like I get goosebumps because he wasn't here. Like he wasn't in that meeting. You guys were running that meeting. You guys are trying to secure a client and we are as a team trying to prepare for the future. And I can already kind of see like the baton like kind of handed.
No, but I think also my dad, I mean, he's been such a great example for us, like since the beginning, he's opened every door, like I always tell Phil, like you can't learn anywhere else like we did with him, you know what I mean? And the opportunities he gave us to not, to bring us up and teach us the way.
Really,
and that's ingrained in the DNA. Yesterday it was funny. I had a dinner with him, and we finished the dinner kind of late. And he said, I might come in a little late tomorrow. I think I'm going to do my spinning in the morning. And I was like, man, you've earned the right to come in whatever time you want. Like don't sweat it.
But it's crazy because he has like, I kind of almost like a conviction where sometimes that happens to me. Like, podcasts are filmed at night. And it's, we won't leave here sometimes at 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's some episodes it's been 2 a.m. We're still here filming. Yeah. And it's like 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I feel guilty that I'm not like getting ready for work. And it's just, it's kind of like
you almost... that problem too. I don't think you ever, like you just feel weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is ours, like this is something that it doesn't matter if
what else are you going to do? Wake up there and, you know what I mean?
Even this is who we are.
Even if we're sick, like, we go,
No, I was in an endoscopy a couple of weeks ago. I was literally, like, about to be sedated. And he's like, all right, we're going. I'm like, give me 1 second. I'm like, hey, make sure you have the drawings ready and the permit card is perfectly ready because we're calling for inspection. And then the second that I, like, regained consciousness, I was like, how did the inspection go? I'm like, I don't do it for work, but I do it because...
I mean, the first time I ever took a sick day was during COVID, and I felt terrible.
Oh man, I gotta be down. The other day I was throwing up like crazy, and I don't feel that this is work. I feel it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult, but it's kind of like I gave up my 9 to 5 so I can work 24 hours a day, and it's
doing something you love. You never work.
Yeah, people tell me how does it feel? How does it feel? Having your own business, and I feel like I don't know. Like, and they ask, how do you separate your business life from your personal life? I go, bro, I have one life.
Yeah.
And I do everything that I can within those 24 hours, and I really don't separate them. It's just something that
find a balance.
You find a balance.
No, and I mean for us, like you're saying, like pass the baton, whatever. Like, I mean, if my dad goes out of town, like for us, it's bad. Like we love hanging out with him all day. I love hanging out with Phil all day. I work with Phil all day. I go home and I call Phil. I probably do 2 hours, 3 hours on the phone just hanging out there, you know what I mean? Like my favorite part of the day is come in the morning and have a coffee with my dad and my brother, like during COVID, my dad's older, went to the Keys and spent a lot of time there, more on Zoom, whatever. That was the worst. Me and Phil was like, man, we missed dad.
It's crazy because a lot of people feel like...
Even if you wanted to retire, we wouldn't let him.
Yeah, we wouldn't let him. Because a lot of people say like, hey, don't work with family. And I think that we relate a lot to that because I consider like Foz and Jazz family. And you guys are fourth generation. So your dad didn't, your dad didn't found this company. Your grandfather didn't found this company. Your great grandfather found this company. You guys are 4 generations deep. Like, I can only pray to God, and I can only ask that Jack's son's son, right? Is that how it is? Like, Jack's has a kid, and his kid is you guys. Like, that's
Jack's grandkid.
Yeah, Jack's grandkid. That's how. It's crazy. Like, how do you guys feel being the 4th generation?
It's an awesome responsibility.
Not a burden, a responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
It's an awesome responsibility.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I think it comes down to unity. I think that obviously in our family and in our tradition, work is a major piece of the pie chart, but family
Is everything.
is.
I think you guys do such a great job.
And the unity is critical, and it's not going to stop at 4.
And we're blessed because we, like you said, you consider your partners like family. We work with people who have been with us, like Frank, who is the general manager of the business. Frank started working with us in 1990.
I was born in 91.
It's crazy.
When Frank
celebrated, he's here having lunch with us the other day. Like,
the same year that Frank celebrated his 50th birthday, he celebrated 25 years at Supermix.
Yeah.
Wow.
Frank is an absolute legend. Such a great guy.
I have seen that a lot of the, not a lot, I would say almost most of the people that work for Supermix and for Superblock are people that are like lifers. Like, we're trying to make lifers right now. Our oldest employee is been with us for 8 years. Like, it's kind of crazy where you guys have created such a culture where, like, they're a family. Like I think that you guys, I see you guys sometimes at lunch, and every time that you guys go to lunch, you're like 12 deep. It's like I can't even tell the waiter, hey, buy them lunch, because every time I do that, it costs me like $1,500. And
if you look, we do have like incredibly low turnover, and if you look at like all our top people have been with us for a very, very long time, and most started at the bottom.
Why do you think that is? Because we struggle with that. I'm not,
I think we have like it's a competitive advantage that we have, because we are a family company, a family run and operated company, and we compete with big global companies. So we have
a good point.
We have the scale to offer our employees the same level of compensation and benefits that the global companies do, but we're a family. We're I like to say that we're not a family, we're a team, because I can't fire Dan from being my brother. I can't fire my dad from being my dad. But in a team, everybody has to carry their own weight. Everybody, it's that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling of everybody working to achieve the same goal. But everybody has to hold their own weight. If a player isn't doing what he's supposed to do, he's going to get traded. He's going to get dropped. So, but we do operate like a team. I do know anybody from a loader operator, a driver, a yard man, anybody can call me anytime. They all have my cell phone. I've been advised many times not to give out my cell phone, and it's probably a bad idea, but I still do.
But it's a good time. Even we go around the plants, have coffee with these guys. We do the family picnic. Bring everybody together, all their families. Like, I think that as much as we love working, and we were talking about like, oh, how nice it is to wake up every day and like work with my brother, work with my dad, work with Frank, Roy, Louie, the office side, Ranella, everybody that's been here forever. Seeing all these people grow in the company, even with us too. Like, I think that if they feel that way too towards the people that they work with, and even towards us, then every single day of their life is going to be better, and they're going to want to come work, and they're going to work better, and be happy to be there.
Because there's so much going on in people's life.
Yeah.
We have her name is Diane. She's also been with us for 20 plus years. And she told me the day that we reopened the office after COVID, she said, "This is the best day of my life."
Wow.
You know, like it's been a year and a half or 2 years or whatever it was that I haven't been this excited to get out of bed and put on some clothes and come to work. And that's the environment we try to cultivate.
I think it's something that me personally, because I lead in different capacities, but I try to lead as much as I can, and our people, like, it's hard for me to explain, but the people and that culture means like so much to me. It's just sometimes you play different hats, and I think you guys have a privilege because sometimes maybe your dad can play a role that you don't have to play.
It's interesting, yeah.
And sometimes I play different roles, and that's probably the hardest part of my life. And the hardest part of my job is that, like, I want to love that person. Like, I want to understand why they're going through that. But at the end of the day, I also have to kind of hold them accountable to it. How do you guys hold, each other accountable in a sense? Because, like you said, you can't fire your brother, And I know you told me the other day you want to. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'll tell you just before we get into us, but when I started in the business, my dad gave me some advice that always comes to mind. I think about it all the time. He said, in business, you need to know 3 things. You need to have basics in accounting, you need to have basic in law, and you need to have a master's in psychology.
Yeah, aside from the general business side of it and sales and marketing, et cetera, it's the big 4.
It's to what you're saying. To manage a team, it's psychology.
Yeah, it's like
and you gotta.
And we're also in construction. We're also not in a normal industry. Construction is an industry where we're prone to get people that have kind of had like a little bit of a rougher life.
Well, it's a rough industry, right? We know what time we start. We don't know what time we finish.
Yeah, and you have to operate.
That's a good point. I like that.
With a lot of pressure. Concrete is a lot of pressure. You guys too, So I mean, it's.
Do you guys because you're talking about, and I want kind of like the people watching this understand. So, I know we're going to talk about the pressure that you guys have, but pressure in concrete is like when you're pouring concrete, you can't stop pouring concrete. Sometimes you're doing something and something happens and we're like, hey, let's just, like right now, if something were to happen right now and we say, hey, we have to stop this podcast, then maybe we just reshoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot stop pouring concrete.
It's a 0 fill mission every time.
It's crazy. It's like going to space, because at the end of the day, maybe we're doing a small project, and maybe the people watching maybe thinking about the residential scale, but the scale that you guys really perform is at a very high commercial scale, sometimes on the 40th, 50th floor, 60th, there's projects you've gotten even to the 100th floor. When that concrete gets to the deck, you cannot stop pouring that concrete. And I would say that the most stressful environment, I have a couple of friends of mine that are in that concrete industry, and it's an industry, honestly, even if I knew it, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't get into it because the concrete industry is the most stressful industry within construction.
Well, people think concrete is a commodity. Concrete is a highly, highly engineered product. It's a very temperamental product. It's a perishable product. It's a product that leaves the plant in perfect condition, and everything you do to it, every minute, if you need to add water, anything you do to it will only make it worse. So and
yet at the same time treated often like a commodity, like something that irks us all the time is when people refer to it as mud, like they'll call dispatch, where's my mud? Oh, your concrete's on the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's something that eventually it's going to dry.
Yeah.
And in our industry, we have 90 minutes from the time that it was batched to the time that it's poured or placed, to finish it, because it essentially dries. And in a lot of these places where people sometimes don't understand is that these places that we're inhabiting, places that we're visiting, these restaurants that we're eating at, they're all encapsulated with concrete. And
it's the most consumed product in the world is water, and second is concrete. You can go anywhere in the world, middle of nowhere, and you'll find a concrete plant. You know what I mean? Like it's absolutely everywhere, you know. And
What's crazy?
it's the best way to build.
What's crazy is that it's everywhere, but there's not a lot of you guys.
Yeah.
Why do you think that there's not that many? Like,
Well,
if
you said it
You
yourself.
said it yourself.
What did I say?
You're like, if I had the choice, I wouldn't
yeah,
get it. We didn't have that choice.
We were born into it.
But
Well,
jokes
that's why
aside,
Dan has he has like 25% gray hair, and look at my hair. I'm like, I'm complete.
I'm close to 99% gray hair now. I got a great
Listen,
beard.
I have a friend of mine that I really care a lot about, and unfortunately, we don't talk a lot, but he's somebody I really care about, and I hope he's watching. And he was my age, and he had a mini heart attack, because this industry is extremely stressful, and I think what you guys do is like, it's not even that it's like, because there's a concrete contractor that places the contract, but like, you guys, do you feel that your job's maybe a little easier or more difficult than that, or equal?
I tell our guys all the time. I say, you may think we're in the business of selling concrete. We're in the business of mitigating liability, because the equipment we operate is heavy equipment. It's people out in the field. It's the safety aspect of it. The
all the trucks on the road, all the logistics. If you got to be efficient, you have to. It really is logistics and managing liability.
And a concrete that costs X to place costs you 10X to remove and replace. So it's a zero fail mission.
Yeah. And it's a service industry, you know what I mean? You have one bad day and it's, you leave a sour taste in someone's mouth, and everybody's going to have a bad day here or there, So,
Yeah.
I mean, for us, the name of the game is quality and service, That's what we do. So we have to maintain the pressure of keeping the high quality and the high service. Not every day we're going to be perfect, but we're going to work hard to do the best every day.
One thing that's kind of crazy is because we're talking about like the family, we're talking about the stress, but we haven't talked about like the cost of concrete. And lately, the price of construction is kind of like skyrocketed. And like you said, concrete, other than water, is the most used product out there in our industry. The price of concrete has really affected us as general contractors, because we're out there trying to sell a product, and then we're getting letters from you guys, hey, concrete's going up in the next month. And then COVID happened. That was
COVID was crazy.
that was nuts.
How did you guys feel like managing and running the business and COVID? I mean, me and Phil always say like that was like some of the hardest times we worked. Like every day there would be new laws and new workplace circumstances, and people get COVID. I mean, we lost people that died of COVID in our office. It was awful. My dad, he went to the Keys and working from there to stay safe. Like it was wild. Like it's one of those things where you have all these plans and then like God laughs or whatever.
Exactly.
Old Yiddish saying, when men plan, God laughs.
It was interesting.
It was tough, and I wish that we would have had the podcast. And I'm really excited about this, having the podcast, not only because of the guests, but because we can be able to like document. And I hope that this podcast kind of lasts. Like our lawyer Alex Barthet in a couple episodes before talked about like, how long do you want this podcast to go? And I'm like,
well, the way this is going, we're gonna lose a client here.
Yeah. No, we're never gonna lose a client. But we want this podcast to go because we want to be able to kind of just tell a story. Now we're not really going through something, but eventually something's gonna happen when I talk about it. And I wish that we would have had the podcast during COVID.
Yeah.
I agree. That's interesting.
Because imagine a couple 26-year-olds, 27-year-olds, 28-year-olds running this business in terms of John Bell, and we had no idea what to do. Like people were getting sick.
But that's interesting because it was the first time I remember looking at Phil. We would have circumstances that you guys had, we all had, and it was like the first time where like me, my dad, and Phil were kind of equals in a room. None of us knew the answer. I would tell Phil, I'm like, damn.
Nobody had an
it's
answer.
like, damn, like we're not even, even
That's
Dad
good.
has got a
That's
puzzle
cool, huh?
face on his face, and to us it was very interesting, and it was, I think it was the hardest we've ever worked, and it was funny because a lot of people just went on vacation for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we
were
lost a lot of money.
essential, right? We were deemed an essential business.
Yeah.
We were doing the mat pour for 830 Brickell when the protests happened.
Talk to us about what a mat pour is so we can understand.
Mat pour is the foundation of a building. It's the pile cap. It's
It's essentially the most important concrete
the anchor
pour
of the building.
Yeah.
And once it starts, it can't stop.
And how long do those mat pours usually take?
Depends on the size. We've done 48-hour pours.
So for 2 straight hours, you're pouring concrete.
Days.
Two straight days.
2 straight days.
Yeah.
Pouring concrete.
We've done pours where we start Friday night and finish Sunday afternoon.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 3 shifts. 3 nonstop shifts.
How so the way that this kind of like conversation kind of started was that prices were going up. For us, it was very difficult to explain to a client, hey, the concrete guys, which in a sense is you, we only have essentially one account, which is, your guys, and that's how much we value you. We're very loyal to our suppliers. We're very loyal to our subs. The same way we're loyal to our wife and our friends, like we have, and we're very different as a construction company in that sense where we're like, why do you need, we're also not the biggest, maybe when we get the biggest, we would have, I hope that the conversation we're having is not, hey, how we might need to go to another competitor, but it's how can we get you guys to just service us more? And that's what we need to focus on. But like we have one electrician, we have one plumber, we have 2 AC guys, we have 2 window guys, we have 2 cabinet guys. Like most of the thing is like 1 or 2. We have 1 roofer. So it's like,
yeah, but I think especially in our industry,
but that's very different in our industry. Like if you ask a GC, no, 3 bids, and you need 3 bids of the roofer. Like, no, bro. Like if you are our concrete guy, like we're going to the grave with you, and that's I also don't know other GCs, but I feel like that's something that really sets us apart from other contractors.
And I think that when things are good, but when things are bad, those loyal relationships really pay off. And I think that in challenging times when we've had raw material shortages and stuff like that, we tried to be loyal to the people who are loyal to us, and I think
that plays a big role.
Yeah.
So you're talking about raw materials in concrete, because sometimes essentially people don't know what concrete is. Can you guys talk to us a little bit about what concrete is and how it's actually made?
Yeah, concrete is basically rock, sand, cementitious. Cement, slag, fly ash. In this market, mostly cement and slag.
And a lot of chemicals.
And a lot of chemicals for different applications, and water. You know what I mean? And
so why does your price go? Why does your price when COVID happened, there was it went down a little bit and then it skyrocketed. Why did the price of concrete go up?
But if you look from a perspective of over a long period of time, concrete 20 years maybe, concrete went up 2-3% a year. You know what I mean? I think that there's certain market conditions that
So every year you're saying that the concrete kind of goes up normally.
No, I think any product does. I think if you look at if you go to Publix today, versus before, you're gonna, what used to cost you 100 might cost you 150, whatever. You know what I mean? But I think that we had specific market conditions here, and the certain points. I think the industry, and Phil speak to this, was kind of depressed for a while. And I think that
the whole economy in 2008 really.
No, I was not even 2008. It's because of market conditions. We had a new competitor enter the market in 2018, and completely independent of the construction industry or the market or the volume of construction, the price of concrete went down because you had a competitor trying to buy some market share. But nobody called and complained when the price went down then. But no, jokes aside, I think that going into COVID, the price was depressed. Like Dan said, if you look at it historically, the price did go down. When I started working in this industry, the price of concrete was higher than it was going into COVID. And I started working in this industry in 2012, coming right off of the big recession that you just referenced, 2008 to 2012. So we went into COVID already with the concrete prices below what it should be.
2006, it was, you know what I mean? You could go far back. It was.
But it's
really,
crazy that you mentioned that because no client was saying, "Hey, we budgeted $100 a yard."
Yeah.
Can you give
But
me?
every client was calling us saying, "Hey, why is your price going up $2 a yard?"
No, and
But look, to finish my point, so going into COVID, the price was below, I think, what it should have been because of conditions completely independent of the market or the world. And then COVID came. And I think that it wasn't unique to just concrete. I think you had supply chain issues across the board. You know, what we were buying trucks for when I started in 2012, 2013 is almost double what we were buying trucks for this year. You know,
The price of a concrete truck.
the price of a concrete truck. Like we went through 2022, 2023 where we couldn't procure truck parts. You know,
Yeah. we're cannibalizing trucks.
yeah, we were basically cannibalizing, you know, basically parking a truck and just taking parts to keep other trucks on the road.
Yeah.
That's an expensive truck.
And also, you have situations where, like, the parts.
much does a concrete truck cost?
We were paying more for used parts. We were buying parts on eBay sometimes. It was ridiculous. But if you didn't pay the premium for the used part, and your truck is parked waiting,
You're losing
the-
thousands of dollars a day.
No, you
And the
can't.
dealer won't tell you if they'll have the part, when they'll have the part.
It was tough. We had a ton of truck orders get canceled. We had a ton of the same way you guys got price increases. We would order a truck, they would come back and say, "Hey, sorry, your new price is this. What can we do? Fine. Hey, sorry, your new price is actually this, and you're gonna get half the trucks you want." And then they come back and say, "Actually, we can't make any trucks." You know, so it was across the board, these pressures too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even gonna get into insurance and this and materials and
No, but we should because
you know,
I
like
feel
the price of the concrete, if it didn't go up, the industry would collapse. You know, but do I think like
But hold on, because that's super important because I feel like it's almost our responsibility to explain this because people say, "Hey, you used to build, you know, this much per square foot, and now you're building this." And I feel that if we don't explain to people, and especially clients and developers, that the price, it's not that I'm charging you more,
Yeah.
and it's not even that you're charging me more. It's not even that the concrete company, I mean the concrete truck company is charging you more, but it's like it goes all the way down to, you know, essentially where even these materials even come from.
everything?
Yeah, people don't realize that almost half of the cement in Florida is imported. It comes from Mexico. It comes from Turkey. Not so much anymore. It used to come from Europe. So global events do affect the price of concrete in South Florida. You know, a large amount of the cement consumed in Florida comes from Turkey. When the Ukraine-Russia war broke out, that had a direct effect in the price of cement out of Turkey. You know, in the post-COVID world, a lot of the cement plants in Europe shut down because Europe pays them carbon credits and basically with all the environmental stuff makes their life so impossible that some of these plants became unviable, right? So a lot of the Turkish cement that was basically feeding coming to the United States now is also feeding Europe and other parts of the world. So you know, there was a mine, an aggregate mine that got shut down overnight in Mexico. It's off the Gulf of Mexico.
And then that affected like the supply of aggregate to Tampa, which then had an effect on this market. So macro, like that's a great point. Like macroeconomic events really influence it as well. You know what I mean? And I think a lot
I feel like
things,
sometimes people feel that like, you know, they like it's such a tragedy. You know, this episode is recorded prior, but something that's happening in the current days that Iran or Palestine is attacking Israel. that affects our life, that affects our money, and they feel like if they see it like on Instagram and social media, that doesn't affect me and my kids. And the reality,
Well, think about it. If
there's a massive ripple effect.
half of the cement in the state of Florida is coming in on a ship, then anything that affects the shipping industry affects the price of concrete. You know, that people don't realize, but the price of ships went up like 200% during COVID. The price for you to get a ship to haul cement from Turkey to here, that has a direct effect on the cement landed in Florida.
Because it's not like you're making 200% more.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, you have to play with those cards.
But I think it's you know, the I don't see that that's not going to happen all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I think we spoke a little bit about it too, and you guys are always trying to forecast and see kind of where markets are going to be. Like, I think our whole industry, I think we're happy to, you know, work hard behind the scenes. We don't want to be the center of attention. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we don't see drastic. We hope for stability. You know what I mean? We hope, you know, for.
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand that not even the concrete and the block industry, but just materials in general and the overall economy. You know, because you guys are essentially what allows us to be able to build. It's not like you guys want that. Like, is that
no? When you have a situation like a shortage or something like that, I mean, it's.
Hold on, wait. Now we're talking about two different things. Because before we're talking about price escalation, and we also went through a massive like shortage, which I want to talk about that. But I want you to complete. Don't forget what you're talking about. But I want the people who are watching to realize that the construction industry went through two major things during the last 2 or 3 years. One is that prices went through the roof in terms of wood and concrete and just actual building materials. But another thing is that forget about if it costs $20 or $150. You guys were trying. You guys. I remember calling you and say we need more concrete trucks. You said I have 20 concrete trucks that don't have an alternator.
Yeah,
and I can't. They don't work. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, and it was crazy.
It's not fair to you guys. And listen, our job as contractors is to push you guys as hard as but it's not fair to you guys because you and then ultimately us. We get so much pressure from the owners that why is prices going up? Why is our job going slower? Like, I felt like we did the best to navigate an extremely difficult situation in the last 3 or 4 years.
I feel prices went up across the board too, and like, the apartments, the houses, the warehouses, the prices went up to buy those. You go banks, interest rates went up as well. Other materials went up as well. Like
even labor. I mean,
labor.
We had a situation during.
We haven't even talked about labor
during 2022 where we were losing some drivers. I mean, Amazon was financing the van, was paying for tuition. Like, I mean, you with the explosion of e-commerce during
college tuition.
Yeah, Amazon was offering like benefits that were unrealistic because e-commerce blew up during 2021, 2022.
We had a phase where we lost so many drivers to Amazon. It was crazy. And that's, even to this day, it's like, it's hard to find certain trades. It's hard to find mechanics. It's hard to find, qualified for certain drivers, etc. Like, I think it's obviously gotten a lot better, but there was a time that it was almost impossible. People wouldn't apply. It was extremely tough.
We're like 40 minutes.
All these things affect everything,
We're 40 minutes into this podcast. And we've talked about you guys being fourth generation and you guys, essentially being right now, like there's no other generation. There's no fifth generation, at least on the way that we think about, we know.
Oh, man, we have some cousins with kids already.
Yeah.
They better get ready. They better get their boots on.
How much pressure do you guys feel? This is being honest. Like, we call this the honest podcast. Like, how much pressure do you feel? Because the reality is that the Barnardos, which is your dad, and the grandfather of the world, they're not going to live forever. Like, do you guys feel that pressure of like this is mine to keep going? Like, this is.
Yeah, I think we represent our greater family. I think my grandpa's 92, he's still working as much as he can or wants. You know what I mean? And I don't ever see my dad retiring. He'll probably follow the same path. It's, take it easy here and there.
But even though,
But
if,
it's
for,
it's
put,
like
put
Phil
them
said,
aside, how do you feel about?
I think that like in a sense you can call it luck. Like I enjoy what I do. Like I enjoy the operation. I enjoy the, sometimes you go into the dispatch office, it feels like air traffic control, like everybody's ears are red and the phones are ringing off the hook. And like some people go into that room and they say, oh my God, you guys are insane. How do you put up with this? Like to me, it's like, it's a thrill. I enjoy it.
It's also what we do. You know what I mean? Like if
This is who we are.
It's what we do. So
Yeah.
like if you take someone and you're like, yo, go jump in, be the fifth guy on the Heat against the Pacers, you're gonna get smoked. You know what I mean? But if you've played basketball for 18 years, like you jump in there and you're like, I'm gonna do it. This is what I do. You know what I mean? So like to us, it's a completely natural progression, and like every day that you learn more, that progression becomes easier and more natural. And in the beginning, Phil could speak to it too. For me, it was a lot harder than it is now. I mean, when I first started there too, coming after Phil, first thing my dad told me, he's like, hey, your brother does operations and he kills it. He's already helping me with a bunch of stuff. So if you're interested in operations, then good luck. Go work somewhere else, find your niche. And off I went, I was like, well, let's learn about what we sell. Called Joseph. Joseph, I'm going to come to the lab on Monday. Went there and like, oh my God, this is chemistry. This is crazy.
Yeah,
you know
Jonas,
what I mean?
You're lucky that you're just naturally really good with numbers.
Yeah, and then for me, like I went learning the business, right? My dad basically said like, okay, go around, go learn, go do your thing, figure it out, find your way, find your position. I'm here to help. Your brother's here to help.
I would say that's the thing that you guys are the luckiest at, is that you had the opportunity to, honestly find your place.
Yeah.
But be careful with that luck, because, when you're running a business as large as yours, there's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. And I don't feel like people really understand. And even through this podcast, I don't think people can really understand, because if you two were to start a company, a concrete company, I think that which I always say is like, all I need is two things. I need money and opportunity. And I feel like that's the only thing, stopping me from being the biggest GC in this city. But that doesn't stop me from the ability that I have. Like I still have to like kind of show up and like play against the Lakers.
And you learn as you go. You still learn. Like if I have the benefit of learning something from my dad, I might get there quicker. You might make a small stumble, and then you learn. But so long as you don't make that same mistake again, you progressed a great deal. You know what I mean? So every day that you learn and absorb, and if you have awareness to kind of, you becomes more natural to you.
What do you think because there's as the problem is that the United States is a young country in terms of its overall age compared to other countries. It's very hard that the first generation person is going to start a company. There's very few, Oscar Morejons of the world that have started a company.
I disagree.
You think so?
100%. I think that's the beauty of America. I think if you pick up Forbes magazine and you look at the richest people in this country, most of them made the wealth themselves in the first generation. I think that's the beauty of this country and the opportunity of America. If you look at Europe and you look at Latin America, it's the opposite. I think a lot of the big companies are multi-generational companies.
Do you think that the United States is more towards that first person starting the company rather than other places of the world?
I think just
even
the
democracy of it.
Yeah, the pro-capital, pro-market economy. This is a place where people come to fulfill their dreams. This is a place where Elon Musks are born in South Africa, and by way of Canada end up in the United States and look at what they can achieve. I think that's the magic of this country.
Yeah, even growing up, like Dad would be like, "Oh my God!" When I was first time I went to America, first time I went to Disneyland, it was like this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, and And I agree with Phil. I think it's a land of opportunity to be able to do it. Now, is it easy to do? No, like you would attest to that. It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we're losing that, and I think this country ought to really preserve that.
The reason I had even brought that up, which I'm glad you know, this we it's good that we have this conversation, but I thought it was the opposite, and I was kind of leaning towards like there's a lot of companies that, especially in the construction industry specifically, if you look at like if I were to put all the companies in a spreadsheet in Miami, I think a very small portion of them are new companies that are starting now.
Yeah, but if you look at a lot of them, if not the first generation, are only in the second.
Yeah, well, but they're second.
Yeah.
How do you think that those people, if you were to talk to those people,
But it's also like the maturity of the town, right? If you look at like Miami's had phases of big growth, right? So like if you were here in the 80s, Miami probably has a bad rap for that time, but it was a time of economic prosperity. It was a time where the city was growing a lot. In the 2005, 6, 7 until 2008, we had another construction boom. So these pockets of opportunity, people come out of the ground, so to speak. And Miami, I would say since 2014 up until today, is experiencing a bull market.
and even after COVID, I mean,
But you are the product of that opportunity, right? You were working for a different company, and you saw that there was a need, there was an opportunity, and you seized that opportunity.
I'm glad you say that because I feel like sometimes people they're in like this, they're like stuck sometimes, they're in this company or they lost their job, whatever it might be. I just wish that we can like encourage these people in a way where it doesn't matter if you're, fourth generation in or we're starting the business. There's so much opportunity out there that.
Yeah, but there's so, and you touched on this on your podcast, and I think with Faz on the podcast you did with Faz, when you're running a company, it's the biggest responsibility you have is the social responsibility, the responsibility that you have to your customers, to your employees, to your suppliers, to basically all of your stakeholders, and that is weight. That's weight. You go, like you said, I traded my 9 to 5 for a 24-hour job. And unless you're running a business and unless you're leading a team, you don't understand that weight. You
also don't know what you're capable of doing as well.
yeah.
We had this woman who worked with us for a while, and she was
But risk is rewarded, It's worth.
Risk is always rewarded.
Yeah.
But we had this woman who worked with us, and she was obsessed with the lottery. She used to play the lottery all the time, and every week she would come in and joke, oh, this is the week that I'm gonna win. And my dad sometimes would come in and would joke with her, would say, hey, did you win the lottery yet? And believe it or not, she did win like over $100,000 one time. But Dad would say
$200,000 on lottery tickets.
Dad would always joke with her and say, oh, did you win the lottery yet? And one day she said to him, she goes, Mr. Bernardo, the day I win the lottery, you'll never see me here again. And Dad laughed and said, well, if I thought like you did, you wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's...
So what do you think? The reason you're saying that is because you feel that, because you feel like your dad felt like he won the lottery or that he had the money of the lottery?
No, it's the social responsibility. You get to a point you're not doing it for the money.
Which I want to talk about something because the other day we met and I never thought about something. And it was when we can negotiate. And Felipe, you said it's something where we're like...
Anything is negotiable except the integrity of the business.
And I thought that was like...
I learned that from my dad. I must put that out there. It's my dad's line.
Footnotes.
I don't want to take credit.
I would hope most of the things.
But that's crazy because I feel that a lot of people go out of business. There's a few. I don't know why many people go out of business. One of the reasons that people go out of business, at least in our industry of construction, is that they don't know when to stop. You know, I felt that when people, because I take a lot of pride in a lot of things, but one of the things I take a lot of pride in is listening. You know, I feel like God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And a lot of people that lost their business or really suffered through the economic downturn of 2008, 2009, and 10 is that they felt bad for the office manager. They felt bad for, you know, that yard person, and they felt bad for that. And then what happens, they kept all these people with such, because they've been lifers for such a long time that they didn't know when to stop, and then they went out of business.
Yeah.
And it's such a tough. I hope that I never get in that position because it was so difficult. And then you said that the other day, and I was like, sometimes we put ourselves in positions because sometimes clients ask us to either lower our prices or to hold our prices. We can't.
But it's not even a function of just finances or money, right? It's a function of, like, you don't negotiate with safety. You don't negotiate with legality. You don't negotiate, like, you know, if a business depends on illegality to survive, it's not a good business. Don't be in it. You know, so you don't negotiate certain pillars that you know you
Such great advice.
that could jeopardize the livelihood of, like Dan mentioned, we do company picnics. You know, the last company picnic we had 1,500 people. You know, and
Which I wasn't invited to, by the way.
We're gonna invite you guys.
yeah,
this time.
you'll come this
At
year.
least I'll
for sure.
cook, you know.
We'll have food. You just hang out.
But you see all those
We
people.
even had
under-
red zone last year.
Huh?
We even put red zone last year
What's that?
for football.
Oh, red. Oh, yeah.
Because Dan basically, you know, he realized he's
baseball
like
fan.
a lot of people who don't come. It's because it's football Sunday. So Dan insisted on having, like, a
If
TV
anybody would do
station.
it, it would be Dan.
We were watching football. It was great.
I think it's crazy,
No,
and I'm really proud of you guys.
Picnic, and we're grateful, and I'm sure you guys have, and all our customers too. We do a huge raffle, and everybody, you know, gives gifts and whatever. I mean, it's a good time. You guys got to come.
Yeah, we have a basketball tournament that you're
we
pretty
had
tall.
that
I think
too.
you'd do.
Yeah, you
I think
do
you'd
good.
be pretty good at.
Really?
If we can't do baseball or John Bell.
We'll win. Yeah. One of the first things that we ask, you know, during an interview is if you've played baseball. And if you haven't played baseball, you kind of go, like, to the bottom of the list.
I'll name more double-A and single-A players than you will, though.
Probably. We're going to have our own podcast, me and you, one day,
We
Dan, and
should.
talk about
You guys
sports.
could-
We'll rebuild the Marlins.
You guys, if you start talking sports with Dan, you could be here till tomorrow.
I think you guys are doing an incredible job. I feel that through the leadership, you know, of your grandfather, your great-grandfather, you know, like, and dad, like you call
And
him,
my uncle, too.
and your uncle,
He's also my godfather.
you guys are, I feel like Supermix is in incredible hands, and I feel that I can only, like, wish and pray because I am your great grandfather, you know, like, and I can only wish that, like, my great grandkids would be like you guys, you know, like, just don't forget that, like, somebody started,
Yeah.
like, your
Oh,
great grandfather started a dream,
Yeah.
and
And you know, he was born to illiterate parents. He was born in a farm. Both his parents didn't know how to read or write. And I mean, that's
He left the house 14, 15. He used to herd, like, bulls and stuff.
yeah. It used to be the like when you have, like, a cattle car. There's, like, a kid in the front that carries, like, a little stick,
yeah,
and, like, all the cattle will follow that guy. He was that.
So he left, and then he went to... He knew he needed to learn how to read and write, so he went to work at, like, the post office typing for the mail to try to, like, understand. And from there on, he went. I mean, he got into construction late in life. You know what I mean? He was a true entrepreneur. You know, I mean, from textile to warehousing to banks, sell banks, insurance company, brewery. He went to Europe, came back and said, oh, there's this movie theaters over there, opened the first chain of movie theaters in Brazil. when he was 70 something years old is when he was like, I'm gonna go open a cement factory. And when he was 70, the life expectancy in Brazil was 60, you know what I mean? And his grand idea was, let me go open a cement factory, you know?
But he lived to be almost 92.
Yeah.
So
He saw it.
yeah, he saw it.
He saw it happen.
What do you think you guys want you two? I'm not talking about dad. I'm not talking about your uncle. I'm talking about you two. Like, where do you want Supermix to go to?
I think steady growth, responsible growth. We're very traditional, very conservative. Try to take advantage of opportunities. Stay humble, work hard, and see where it goes. You know, just keep working.
I think you guys are doing a good job.
You know, like 3 weeks ago, they released a biography of our great-grandfather, and we are going to have it translated to English, so I'll send you a copy for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
I don't know what's gonna happen, but I know that there was like a lot of like things that really made. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of things that made Supermix different. You know, what do you think that really sets you guys apart from the other competitors? Because even in an industry of concrete, there's not, because you ask how many general contractors are in the city. How many? I would say like maybe
I couldn't even tell you.
5,000.
That many, you think?
I don't know, 3, 4. I don't know, a lot.
I have no. I couldn't.
Would you say it's more than 100?
Absolutely.
Okay, so would you say that there's that
Would
you
I
have?
say is it more than 1,000? I don't know if I would say it's.
All right, so you have more than at least 100 competitors. I mean, we have more than 100 competitors in an industry where you guys don't have more than 10 competitors. What do you think really sets you guys apart?
I think I'm gonna be biased, but I think we have the best people. I think we try.
I agree.
We invest heavily in being able to give them the best tools that they need to fulfill their duty. I think it comes from the top. I think my dad, Phil, myself, whatever, I think it's important that we participate in that hard work. It's not like we're hanging out and everybody else is working. And we talked about it a little before, like we live and die by service and quality, you know what I mean? And it's almost like a little like in the restaurant business, you can go to a place 10 times and then you go one time and you have a bad experience, you may never go back, you know what I mean? So we have to work with that in mind. And we're not going to be perfect every day, but we really strive to focus on that. And I think that comes from having the best team, and hopefully they feel like we're able to give them the best tools.
And also,
I think the fact that we are family run and family owned and family run. You know, like if you look at our competitors, they're not local companies. You know.
Yeah, you
keep
could,
going.
You could.
I don't want to.
No, keep going. This is your time, because it's like that's the problem is that
this isn't a sales pitch.
We have great.
No, it's not a sales pitch, but the problem is that perception is reality, and people don't realize that if I have an issue with concrete, I'm a person that's running a job site, and concrete is not there, and of all the competitors in this city, I cannot call a single owner. You go to the mom and pop restaurant, and the owner is probably there, and if you email them, they'll probably answer, and you go to anywhere in this city, there's a lot of mom and pop spots. You guys are the only mom and pop kind of concrete company in the city. And if we have an issue, I call you guys. Hey,
I mean, I'll give you an anecdote. We had an issue one time where a customer was pouring with us and was pouring with a competitor, and the concrete was coming out with like a weird color. And initially, nobody knew what it was. It turned out to be like a foam release chemical that they were using that was like causing stains.
Something the contractor was doing.
Yeah, it was basically like a chemical that they used to remove the formwork, and it was basically causing a stain. But they basically called us in, and they called in our competitor on the project next door to basically say, hey, what's going on? We need to figure this out. And
who's causing the issue? You guys or they were?
At that point, nobody knew. At that point, it was, let's try to figure out what's going on because
you guys were on the same job?
No.
Oh. But who was doing the job? Who poured the concrete?
I'd rather not say.
No, but it was. Were you pouring the concrete or they pouring the concrete?
No, we were supplying the concrete.
Okay, perfect. So you guys
Yeah.
were supplying the concrete.
And
That's
our
important.
competitor was supplying
Across the street.
Across the street to the same customer.
That's important in the story. So you
Okay.
guys were supplying the concrete.
And they were having the same issue on both jobs. So they called our competitor to see, hey, what do you guys think is going on this job? And they called us to figure out, what do you think is going on the job that we were supplying? And we had a meeting, and I went with Randy McDade. I went with Joseph, who are two extremely experienced technical people
In your company.
in our company. And we had a meeting, and we discussed what it could be, and we basically brought in, some of our suppliers to have their 2 cents also, and we basically tried to resolve the problem. And when I left that meeting, somebody from the customer side basically came to me, and he said, I really appreciated this meeting, and I'll tell you, I had the same meeting with your competitor, and they showed up with a salesperson and an attorney, and you showed up with 2 technical people. And I think that's a pretty big difference in the industry we work in.
And I think in today's environment, people are appreciating the service and quality more than before. I mean, Supermix is not going to be the cheapest option. We can't be.
Neither is John Bell.
Yeah, but we are going to do our best to. Sometimes the cheaper comes out more expensive. You know what I mean? Like if we save you a month on your job, just on your interest, on your loan, you're getting back a solid.
A lot of money.
Like there's a lot that people need to consider instead of just like a line item on a pro forma for a job. You know what I'm saying?
We want to offer the best value.
And it's the same concept, like if you're going to do, and Phil is super involved in the association and all this, and he'll talk to more. But it's the same concept of doing a street or highway in asphalt or concrete. You know what I mean? Like the asphalt's going to look better on your budget, but go over 10, 20 years and look at what it costs the taxpayer
to replace it
to in maintenance compared to concrete and in heat and
the word you're looking for is value.
Yeah.
You want to offer the best value.
Yeah, overall. And we hope that people look at the whole package instead of just, what's going to look the best for
guys. Listen. This podcast was created, thought of, because clients have a tough time finding value. And I hope that if you're watching and you are, potentially a client, but that you realize that through people like John Bell Construction, people like Supermix and Superblocks, like we're not after your money. We are literally after the opportunity to serve you. You have had a lot of experiences, maybe. You've heard a lot of stories, maybe. We are literally different than the other people. We are trying to essentially convince them almost to use us, not because we need your money, but we want to be able to love you and serve you. And it's through partners like Supermix that we are able to fulfill the things that we thought of 9 years ago when we wanted to start this company, because we wanted to make sure that the values that we have at John Bell Construction don't stop at John Bell Construction, and then they go all the way to the person that's, supplying the concrete, that's supplying the block. And I think it's important that people realize that when they hire us and that they hire you, that we're not going to show up with lawyers. We are showing up with solutions. We're showing up with people that
participate in the problem. The same way when there's a success, everyone participates in the success. Well, when there's a problem, we're going to also participate in the problem, in the finding a resolution and bringing all the people, tools, et cetera, that we can to come to a solution.
And I love it. And I think that hopefully through this podcast and through this episode, people can realize that we're here to serve you, we're here to love you, and we want your business, and we want to build the thing that you want to build. You have the dream. You hired an architect. You have something in mind, and I honestly can't imagine a better team than the team that we have here in this room. And I'm excited for the 4th generation to continue to excel at Supermix. And I know that it's not going to stop at our generation, and we're going to continue to go this.
Well, Well, I hope Jack's great grandchild is working with our great grandchildren. So.
Man, nothing will make me happier. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We have somebody that's first generation business owner, fourth generation business owner, but all these generations are using the skills and the knowledge and the discernment and the conviction to serve you. Continue to watch our podcast and realize who we are, what we do, and what we care about.
Thank you.